Alrighty guys, let's go! And we are back in BIOS Megafauna 2. I took a little break. Apparently I somehow managed to disorganize all the cubes. Here are the red ones. Okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. So, mistake from the previous game. I don't recall any right now. I probably made a few. I always do. Again, this is not the game's fault, this is mine, because I am playing 3 players at once and the Vassal module is not really the best when it comes to visibility of what's going on. I've seen the components, and when you have this thing physically in front of you, everything's gonna be very clear. You've got all the icons telling you what's going on, what to do, and the map will be a lot more readable than it is now. I'll take these a bit closer over here, and I already promised that lots of stuff was going to happen this turn, and indeed lots of stuff is going to happen this turn. So the first event is the Ring of Fire, and the Ring of Fire is a major area in the basin of the Pacific Ocean where a large number of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions occur. All but 3 of the world's 25 largest volcanic eruptions of the last 11,700 years occurred in the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is a direct result of plate tectonics, the movement and collisions of lithospheric plates. So we're gonna have volcanoes pretty much bursting out. That's probably gonna reduce warmth, so it's gonna get colder. And here we've got substrate revolution. During the Precambrian, a microbial mat carpeted the seafloor. It formed an oxygen barrier, making the mud hypoxic and suffused with poisonous H2S from anaerobic bacteria. S is sulfur, right? Bottom dwelling, so H2S is sulfuric not oxide, so I don't know what you would call that. Bottom-dwelling mollusks at first merely grazed on this mat. But with the advent of burrowing, the mat was destroyed and the substrate became waterlogged and habitable. The increased levels of bioturbation meant that sulfur from volcanoes was more readily oxidized into sulfates. So we have volcanoes erupting, and the sulfur from the volcanoes oxidizing into sulfates, providing more food. So these 2 cards actually go together pretty well. And we've got the X-continent moving. We've got Baltica moving left. So there is a collision. Let's see if I hit it. I hit it pretty well. So we are gonna endanger these white guys. And as we've seen, I think both of the other players, orange and green, have now realized how dire a situation they are in. White is far ahead in the game and pretty much needs to die. So white needs to be killed off. The other players have formed a pact and they are now trying to kill off white. And this is a good beginning for that. There's a... Wait, I forgot the actual volcano, which would happen on... It's the crater icon. Number 5 of Siberia. So green doesn't like it, but it's actually even more white getting wiped out. And the disk gets taken from somewhere else because there is none in the atmosphere anymore. And green quite heavily dislikes this one. So we'll take this one. Okay then. This is the collision. We've already done this. Then we've got something happening on 0, 3 and 7. On 7 it's cold. So now our plant has to make a tough choice. They either have to take discs from here, which makes it harder for all their mutations to work. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are quite in dangerous territory already. They could have lost a lot of creatures this turn, they luckily did not. So instead of taking the disc from here, they will sacrifice their actions and will take them from here. Because there is a white die here, it's only warm right now. The climate's actually cooling down quite heftily. And then there's something on 3. What happens to the... I don't think anything happens. There's already forests everywhere and it's a green die. And on 0, nothing happens. There are no continents on 0. So now we've got a possible gun event of plant matter moving into the oceans, but there's just something going. So if one of the animals had taken the Medea card, they would probably decide to use all of these and put them somewhere on the offshores to make sure that their marine animals can survive more, and they're at the same time also gaining a lot of action. So the Medea card would have done a lot of good work for them, but green is not so charitable. It does not care that much about, you know, animal life, so they decide not to do that. And then we start with the turn. Green goes first. Let's look at our mutations. Right, so green has a stick at this point, which, as we've already said, is definitely the wrong kind of mutation. It also means that green archetypes can't be preyed upon by worms, by burrowing creatures, but the green archetypes are over here, so it's not that much of an issue, because we have learned that right now the orange worms are actually outcompeting green when it comes to yellow cubes, right? To red cubes, right? So green has a problem there. It can only compete with red cubes, and it's already here with its worms, so it can't eat its own worms, and there aren't any other worms to eat right now, unless it's out competing itself. So green is in a pretty big pickle. What it can do is try to outcompete these herbivorous birds. Let's see what they are like. The herbivorous birds have 2 green discs, while 2 green cubes, while actually green has a lot more of those. And since green will be going first, it's kind of hard to predict what this landscape will look like, but right now at least nothing can eat those birds, so it is sort of a semi-safe bet that there will be no carnivores invading in here. So green decides to populate a lot. And how many actions would that take them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we'll leave one of those, because we also have to check if there's any way we can speciate. These are all not horror plant cards, so we cannot take them. And there are less speciations apparently to be had on the lower deck as well. But don't give me all of them at once. Give me this. So we've got 3 actions. So right, one of them was populate. How many worms do we have? 3. Well, green is not going to win this game, but green is going to try to get rid of these birds. So what we will also do, in case things go wrong, is we are going to develop campfires. And that's actually a blue cube. It's getting terrifying for green. If they lose their organ things here, they are in a lot of trouble. But they are banking on that this is not going to happen. They are getting a white cube. And as we can see, we have developed another purple icon. So we are getting the choice to eat another kind of creature. Birds look like pretty safe prey. Nothing else is eating birds. So in case things go wrong, we are just going to eat birds. So we have developed two tools on this singular organism. And what also happened is that we have developed language. And having language, basically every emotion that you finish is worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. But also if you have three emotions on one creature, that means that you have developed language. We already had speech, so it was only a matter of time, as you might think. And if somebody develops language, I don't know exactly, but this might be the last turn of the game, or if it is not, it is the second to last turn of the game. I'll have to check the manual. And I think I somehow managed to close the manual tab that I had open, so just give me a second there. I hope you don't fall asleep while I'm doing this. I'm opening the manual here, and we have basically ended the game at this point. I think we are going to finish the turn and then that's it. So there is no comment that's going to end the game like I was predicting, but this is actually the first game this happens to me. Language ends the game. And this is not a smart move for green. So in an actual competitive game, they would not be doing this. They would bank on having at least 2 more turns, 1 or 2 more turns to actually spread out on the board, maybe catch a speciation mutation, and okay, I did not show you anything bad there, but sorry about that. And where does it say the part about language? Language. I'll just search for it. If one of the species gets 3 total emotions consisting of 2 or more colors, you acquire language and end the game per A6. And so A6 would be the paragraph I have to check, which is in the very beginning of the rulebook, so it's kind of confusing. And A6 refers me to J6F, and this is why the rulebook is kind of a nightmare. And J6F should then actually tell me what language does. It ends the game per A6. Okay, so A6 does not tell me what language does, but it tells me how to end the game, so I have to go back to A6. And it just says the game ends. Alright, so we have learned nothing, but it ends this turn. Cool, so that actually means we are going to get away with having all these mutation cubes going for us. And so at least we're going to survive. So catastrophe averted. The plants are going to be just fine. They are going to survive until the end of the game, at least. So we have bought something, right? Have we bought something? Where is the mutations deck? We have bought something. We have promoted it. And we have populated, and that's it for our 3 actions as plants. Now, the next player's turn. Red. Orange. Orange now knows that the game will end this turn, and is kind of irate about this because we have to get rid of white. White's the biggest. White's got a target on their head, and this pretty much has to be dealt with. So we are checking the mutations, but mostly we want to spread out. So we might do more population actions than anything else. Can we outcompete these birds on anything? They are basically only herbivorous, so it's unlikely we can outcompete them, but green is already going to take an attempt at doing that. So we have to make sure to do other things to get rid of these guys. Since we only have one snail in here, there's no real point in using snails to accomplish our goals. And these are pretty much impenetrable because they are plant eaters, they're herbivores with 2 cubes, if I remember correctly. Yep, they have 2 cubes. And that means we are not gonna be able to oust them here. We do have 2 fish. So let's see if our fish can do anything. We have extremely crappy fish, but they have 1 cube. Is that enough against the other fish? The other fish also have 1 cube. The other fish, however, are bigger than our fish. Now, is it possible for us to gain 1 more green cube? And indeed, it turns out it is. We are actually getting a monster token, but on here it pretty much just works like a cube because it's a size 1 creature. But 1 cube's enough, so we are going to try to oust white a little bit when it comes to fishing. Well, actually, it's not a smart move. No, we're not going to do that. I'm taking everything back that we've done. Because it's not actually necessary, we can just, you know, coexist with them. It wasn't in the pact that we made with the green player, but it's the last turn. Pacts are not important anymore. And it wasn't going to do anything anyhow, so it's not really actually breaking anybody's promises. Now, these archetypes are something we would very much like to have on the board, but they're not going to be on the board. Then we have these worm creatures, and I guess we lost a lot of those, and we would like to have these back on the board. So we had 1 populate action. We've got 3 actions in total as far as I can remember. These guys are very competitive when it comes to red. We can even give them 1 more cube. Is there anything cool we can do? We can develop a limbic system or pituitary glands. Oh, we have more fish than I thought. Right. They probably got swamped with plate tectonics or something, but don't know if we have enough time, enough actions. These guys will populate thrice. The problem is that they can't eat anything. There are no worms left. That's a massive problem. So we don't know what white is going to do yet. White is pretty safe in getting into these habitats. And our orange cripples are basically doomed. Is there any crazy speciation thing we can pull off in the very last minute? I don't think so. White does have this in the bag, don't they? You only have one snail. And even then, the white snails are better, it seems. Can our worm guys actually go anywhere? They would have to compete with these guys, and they have no green cubes. They could get one green cube. 6, so they cannot afford this green cube, sadly enough. So they could get 2 green cubes. But that's 2 actions, and then they can't speciate, so... They should have thought about that earlier before they evolved into becoming what they are now. That's pretty much what you're gonna take from this. So we're just making sure that these fish get to survive. That's all the fish we have. And yeah, move on and hope there's some habitats left that we can actually use to get our burrowing creatures to safety. Now it's oranges. No, not oranges, it's white's turn. I just took them off the screen. And white is rubbing their hands together. We're doing great. We're doing great. Everything's peachy. We've got awesome plant-eating worms. We're definitely going to populate again once, because I know the other 2 players are trying to eradicate me. I'm just gonna spread as far and wide as possible with pretty much all I have. So it's 1 population action for the worms, 1 for the birds. The archetype has become extinct, but we're using all the other cripples. So we would also like a fish, because we are the best fish. So this deck has become unimportant. I can close it down. Somehow, what happened up there? Can I clear this up? Clear. Thank you. So that's just some graphical glitches. Never mind the graphical glitches. They are annoying. There we go. Fixed. So we've got green. This massive language developing tool using plant species. In the end of the game, we're going to look at what we've actually built. But for now, we're just going to play it out. So we've got these guys who can actually eat. These guys. Do we have size 5? Yes, of course. So these massive plants use nets that they built so they can eat all of these birds. So the birds are being eaten by the plants. And that's it for the green player. This is probably a good idea. We might be able to oust them, actually. So let's check for that first. Green versus white birds. Yeah, green's got the monster token, right? Yeah, green has this monster thing here, so they're definitely going to win a herbivore contest. Sadly, the white guys are still gonna be there, but there's not much we can do about this at this point. Orange has decided to go with these guys first, and I think we cannot compete with the other fish, so we're just going to eat them instead. So I can populate from here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2. This just takes 2 movement points. We do have the movement points, correct? We've got 2 movement points? How did we ever get here? Right, so we don't have enough movement points then. So this does not work. But this works. 1, 2. And all the others should work too. 1, 2, 3. No. Dear God, I have to rewind everything. Okay. So we're going here, because that's definitely possible. Did we lose a cube or something? But we can go here. Why are we so tiny? We can't actually move anywhere. I think we must have made a big mistake during the game. As always. I probably counted these cubes or something. Ah, jeez. There's just so much going on. But right now we're doing things correctly. And this means these 2 fish have to die. They're not going to actually populate. And now the worms. The worms are good hunters. So now they could go here to try and eat this, but it would just endanger this guy and kill off both. And since I don't really care about hurting green at this point, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be a dick to green. Instead, I'm going to be a dick here. And the white worms, they don't have any red cubes, so this is actually an ideal spot to be for the red worm, but I think it's the only one of its kind. Is there anything else we could possibly eat? Can we get down there? 1, 2, 3. We are... yeah, we have 2 blue cubes, so that's actually possible. Good. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. So here it can't eat anything, it's endangered immediately. But here we are in a forest, so it might possibly survive. Actually, we're just out competing ourselves here. That's useless. And this is a bad situation. All the worms got killed off. I guess we're gonna go here just to see what happens. Right now we are going to lose, but you never know. And now it's white's turn, who's going to win the game. Oh, well, there's a free space, right? So let's use that one. And of course the white worms are gonna come in and compete. I'm just gonna do the competition right away because it doesn't matter. White's actually going to use these worms to save its own species here, so the master plan that green had of eating the birds is now failing. Actually, the birds have 2 cubes, so this is not going to work out. The green cubes, the green ones are actually faster. So once they are competing over the yellow spots, they are going to win out. But on the red spots, it's actually the same thing because both of them have no red. So these guys, no, they actually have a lot of red. Okay, so they are the best predators, very suited to this place. Best predators and carnivores. That's a threatening species right there. What else could we do? We can try to out yellow and green over here. And the green worms, they have 2 yellows and the size of 6. So green is not going to be out yellowed here either. Can we out yellow the orange guys? Can we even get there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'd have to sacrifice a guy to get over there. And we don't have any guys left. So no. Can we outcompete them on here? The orange snails. The orange snails are bigger. And this is a red space. So again, no. So this one's just going to end up dead. Yeah, I'm just discarding it right away. I don't want the hassle. Same thing for this one. And this one should have gone here. Wait, this archetype, it can't be eaten by worms. I forgot. It can't be eaten because it has tools. So this one gets discarded too. And it appears that green's plan is working out after all. Now we've got more birds. And who would the birds like to outcompete? Everybody, of course. So they're going to go here. 1. Actually, they can't go over here. So 1, 2, 3. They definitely have enough. They have 3. Actually, they have exactly enough. So we're going to outcompete this guy and this guy. And this guy. I guess this guy. That hurts the other players more. So there's a lot of competition on this last turn of the game. And it's all quite chaotic, but I'm pretty sure white is poised to win. So we have decided that green is the best herbivore because they have this thing. So it's this for 5 green cubes. So it's 6 green cubes, 7 green cubes for green. While white with the birds only has 2. It should be 2. Yeah. So on all these spaces, white decides to eat the green archetype, which I just realized is not possible because white will get stuck in the net and eaten instead. So all these white guys actually get endangered. So we're endangering them. They don't have any white cubes, so they're not going to be able to flee from here. But the green operation was way more successful than I even imagined. So here we have a contest between these guys, and green does not have something to crack the snails. It hasn't discovered stones as well, so it can still be eaten by this. So green gets endangered, and therefore orange gets endangered as well. Same for this space. Orange gets endangered, orange gets endangered. In this space, it's again the same thing. Green gets endangered, and therefore orange gets endangered. And over here we have this place pretty much stayed the same. It's nothing to do with the rest of the world. So there are some species that actually die out here, might have survived, though No, it's mostly the archetypes. So these are still the same guys as over here. It hasn't been that long. It's been like 30 million years, 60 million years. Peanuts when it comes to time. We've got white versus red worms in a red biome. So here white actually loses, but everybody can still eat everybody, so green is fine. Trying to go hex by hex at this point. I've done this, I've done this, I've done everything. There are no carnivore contests that I can see. Now we kill off everything that dies. That's quite a lot of die-off, quite a lot of stuff does not survive. Wow, big extinction happening here. Feels like it's 50% of the population of the planet. It's probably not that much, but it's definitely more than just decimated. Any red dots left? No. So the game is finished. Now, before we count the big ones, we're gonna award extra points. We're gonna award extra points to green. And green has got a lot of extra points. Green has discovered 2 tools. So that's 1, 2. They have 2 species, as opposed to everybody else is a lot more. So that's 2 more of these. They have 2 captured guys. There should be 2. Yeah, there's this worm here, and there's this one. So we've got 2 mutualism. So it's not captured. They're not captured. They belong to each other. They are mutually beneficial. But green is the one who gets the points. So it's really just green who's benefiting here. I'm not sure if they were allowed to keep this one. I'm letting them keep this one. It does not. It won't end. It won't change the end result of the game. But this one actually went extinct, so I'm not sure if they're allowed to keep the white archetype or not. I will have to check up on that in the rules. It's like I said, it's not going to change the game. They also get 3 extra points for having 3 emotions. And they get 3 extra points for having discovered language. 2, 3. And it looks like a fair bit of points. So at least here they are somewhat competitive with the bonus points that the other guys got in the other scoring rounds. But they are probably not going to end up being the winners. So here we've got 4 species, and that's 4 extra points. We've got no emotions. But these guys don't really care about emotions. And we've got white, who also has not discovered any emotions. These guys that are upside down don't count. So we've just got 4 extra points. 1, 2, 3, 4. They actually get a 5th extra point because of the archetype card that's in the fossil record. So these guys are not alive anymore, but because we as humans afterwards managed to discover them, they are still worth points because they are the history of the planet. And last, we are going to check how many points everybody gets for the cripples on board. And this is what we've been competing for all along, so it should come as no surprise to see how important this is. This will pretty much determine the winner of the game. We've got green with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, they've been hurt so much by all this happening here. So we've got green with 7. And we've got orange with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So orange stayed the same. And our big victor, which is white, with 1. Whoa, okay, they have been wiped off this part completely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have managed to hurt white, but not enough. Now let's see how many extra points everybody has. So with green it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So green ends up with a score of 19. Orange ends up with a score of 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, it's an upset. We actually have an upset. Oh, this is so cool. So the extra points that green got for developing all these emotions and language actually helped them out to claw their way back to 2nd place, at least. And white, because white managed to gain so many points during the game, they can now use these to go 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. And all in all, I have to say it was a pretty close game. I did not expect that after all these upsets and crazy extinctions that were happening, all these competitions. We've got a pretty balanced board, and I love that. It feels like a really well-designed game because there are so many options that you have, and the all mechanisms in place so that things tend to balance out somewhat. So if you have a creature that's really strong at something, it's probably still gonna get ousted off the board, at least partly, and so there's this back and forth movement going on, and you never really know what's going to happen, but you can almost predict it because, I mean, there are no dice involved, all the information is open, but there's just so many variables, and it's absolutely lovely. So we have finished this game. There is no mass extinction happening from a comet because we've invented language. So now we can shoot down all these crazy comets that would wipe out all life on Earth with our. Okay, we're not that far yet. There's gonna be another game called BIOS Origins, and that game will look at the development of civilization. So I also promised to look at all the species that we produced. And we're going to start with the less interesting ones, I feel. We've got green, orange, who I'm just realizing now actually got wiped off the board. Oh wow. So that would not give them any extra points. It does not change the point total, because they do get a point for the fossil icon anyhow. So, orange. The snails, the small tiny snails, they went extinct. But we've got these fishies, these octopuses, with the hyponome propulsion. They are very small. They are size 1, which is a few kilograms at most, I am guessing. I don't remember the scale exactly. In American Megafauna, it was 40 kilos, the smallest size. I think these guys are a bit smaller because the game starts earlier. And they've got small intestines, so they've become semi-adept at eating plants. And that's pretty much all they do. They propel themselves around with these propulsion systems. Then we've got these guys with the drill ovipositors, the females of the giant Ichneumon wasp. Can detect larva instead of rotting wood. Okay, larva. So we've got these guys that can drill into things, into wood, and they are laying their parasitic eggs inside. They've got Chelicerae, arachnid mouth parts. So they've got primitive spider mouth parts that they're using to eat things. They got a lateral line sensor in fish. The amphibians used to detect movement and vibration in the surrounding water. Since it does not work in air, it must be abandoned or put to another use in terrestrial animals. So it's got some use in this animal, I'm sure, but we don't really know what it is. And it has developed a brainstem. So this is the only animal who has explicitly developed a brainstem, which it uses to hunt its prey. It's actually kind of scary. It's this thing that lays its eggs into its prey, has these crazy mouth parts, and uses everything to be quite aggressive. It's one of the most aggressive species we had, with all the red cubes, to hunt down its enemies, because it's so intelligent it can do it. And then we've got the snails. The beaky snails, they're armored with this beak, and they've got wrists and ankles. So these are like sort of semi-proto-bird dinosaur things, even though they're descended from snails. So there's snail dinosaurs. How would that work? Armored snail dinosaurs. So they're soft on the inside, but they've got like a plating, a shell or something, like this beak here that they developed. They're actually quite big. They are size 3, so these are at least, I'm guessing, a few hundred kilograms. So these are massive creatures. And then we've got white. White's creatures are kind of interesting because they've got a lot of base organ cubes. And if the game had gone on any longer, White would have had to be very, very careful. Then he'd have had to get rid of some of these cubes, because he might just have lost 2 species at once. And then the game would have looked very different, but it would have been his fault. So pretty much White won, but he gambled a lot. In the one phase, in the starting phase of this turn, he might have lost everything had we drawn, for example, the comet card with the DNA symbol. So he would have had to discard both, at least one of these cubes, and lose their species. So these species, because they're so specialized, they're very lucky to survive. We've got this glider here, they've got some sex organs, and are adapted to plant eating and running away. We can try to remember what cards were actually used to supply these, but that's gonna be a bit much. And here we've got the coiled shell. So these, instead of the snails developing it, it was our lizards that have actually developed a shell. And these are size 3 creatures. They've got sensory hairs, so they know when the prey is coming, so they can sort of coil up inside it. So we've got dinosaurs with these snail humpbacks that they move inside when they're threatened. So these are peaceful plant eaters. I don't really understand why it's a red cube. I probably should read up on what the cubes actually mean, because red is not necessarily aggressive, though it usually is used for that purpose. I mean, herbivores can also compete in the forests with each other, if there's a carnivore there, by using these red cubes. And then we've got the cellulose methanogen. These are a bit bigger, I'd say a few tens of kilograms probably. Termites, right, these are the termite guys. And they've got ruminant chud chewing. So wow, so these are chud chewers. That's why they're so good at eating plants. Termites, big massive termites that chud chew. So lizard-like termites. Well, I'm assuming there's probably not such an animal on our planet, but it's a pretty cool animal. And here we have the bookgill skimmerit. And it what? Okay, so this thing pretty much did not evolve. It already brought its basal organs with it from the other thing. It's quite a big fish, pretty much. It's a lizard fish descendant from the land creatures. The fish in this game are all descendant from land creatures, unless you start from your BIOS Genesis game, in which case you start with fish that developed in water, but they're gonna be extremely crappy fish. You do want to start with a terrestrial creature in that game, from that game, if you can manage it. But in this game, the fish are actually descendant from the land creatures. The hypothesis being that because it's so much more difficult to survive on land than it is in water, it's probably easier to go back into the water and dominate everything, because you are so much more hardy and more difficult to kill, that you're pretty much gonna destroy everything and be the best of the animals, the most fittest of them all. And so much for white. And now we're getting to the most interesting creatures, especially creatures. So we're going to do the boring one first, boring one in brackets, inverted commas, or whatever you call them. And these are plants that have developed nitrogen root nodules. The roots of legumes contain nodules housing symbiotic nitrogen-fixing bacteria. These convert nitrogen gas from the atmosphere into ammonia, which is assimilated into amino acids, nucleotides, ATP, vitamins. Okay, so these are pretty much using ammonia to produce their own stuff. And they are massive. These must be like 40-ton things. Trees. Yeah, so right now they're trees, but let's see what else they have. So they're a flower animal. They're flowering plants, so they produce plants. It's fine. They have roots, vascular roots, root system. They've got sex pheromones. So you have to attract the other trees to, well, let's say these guys can probably move because they can run away. They have got these cubes to run away. So we don't really know how they do it, but they are moving trees. And they've got cheeks with which they chew their prey. So it's something like a 40-ton Venus flytrap that's running after you. And what a horrific image. And that's the boring one, right? That's the boring one. So we've got the interesting one. These are the descended from these are the mushrooms evolved into this thing with an estrus cycle, nest building, speech, and the campfires. So these are like proto intelligent beings. They're probably quite intelligent already. They can talk to each other, so they have developed language, which is massive. And they've got tentacles. Oh jeez. Okay, this starts off well. They've got tentacles and saliva. They want to eat you. They are zombie masters. So they actually are able to infiltrate other species with their spores or whatever they have. And here I guess it's horsehair ones produce effector molecules and proteins that command the brain and nervous system of its host. Creepy. And they've got muscle shivering. All cooled birds and mammals shiver. A thermogenesis using high frequency, relatively uncoordinated contraction of skeletal muscles. So they can shiver if they're cold. That's actually quite relatable. And they use sticks and nets to hunt their prey. So this is the most monstrous creature I've ever seen in this game. They've also got all these other organs that we can sort of imagine up what they're doing, and they are massive size 5 creatures, probably 2 tons or something, and they're stomping after you with their roots or whatever they have. These are pretty awesome. So this was pretty much it for the recap of the game. As we've said, white has won. Orange has somehow managed to fall back into second place, and the plants have come in second, despite all the advantages they have with the Medea supervillain card, which was very useful for them. It did not save their game, so yeah. It's not. I don't think it's overpowered. And especially in the beginning of the game, it's kind of easy to take the Medea villain card because you don't lose that many actions yet, so it might actually be a good idea for the animals to try it out, to take this away from the plants. And leave the plants kind of stranded with their disadvantage of only being able to take from this deck and the horror plant cards like this. I haven't experienced that it was this difficult for the plants to speciate in my previous games, but they somehow managed fine without doing that. So what do I know? All these mutations they garbled actually congealed into something pretty damn cool. So that's it for my game of Bios Megafauna 2. It was fun playing this again. It was my third time with the game. I'm still stumbling over rules and missing things, but because there are so many things working together, working against each other, some small mistakes are not actually that harmful to the game experience as a whole, I don't think. So it allows for even that much. And it was just really damn fun. So thank you guys for watching. By the way, this would have been a 5. Right. Again, this did not change anything. I just forgot to do it. And yeah, it ended up on a quite a normal planet, on a balanced planet. We're actually back to Eden temperatures. The hothouse almost killed everything off, but it did not happen. And yeah, it's still giving me a lot to think about. I definitely want to play this again. Most likely it's gonna be with other people because I've tried solo enough. I might try the other game. Where would this be? We've got 2 more cratons. That's Venus, so we don't need these. The solo game, I'm probably gonna play a solo game. Not sure if I'm gonna make a video about that. And you're gonna play that on Mars with playing as one plant and one animal that's eating it. These are the oceans of Mars. I think it's only got 2 kinds of terrain, ocean and land. So we've got 4 oceans and the rest is land. So I'm interested in how the solo game turns out. But for now, I'm quite content with just the base game because that's just it's got so much in it. We've seen a bare fraction of the mutation cards. There are so many more. All of it can be used, lost, speciated from, mutated into different sides. Every card's 2-sided on the back. There's so much to see in this game, and we have barely scratched the surface here. So I don't think I'm spoiling anybody by showing them all this, because there's just so much going on in this game. You're gonna have to see it for yourself. And my verdict about this game is just go out, buy it, or at least get to play it if you've got friends who are like me, who have to have these kinds of games. And we're going to do a mass extinction here. No, we can't. We're not allowed to delete everything. And on that note, I'm gonna leave you. I hope you enjoyed this playthrough as much as I did. That's been it for me, and thank you guys for watching.